Hey there, this is Alexis Knight, your no-nonsense guide through the chaotic world of real-life crime, scandal, and everything your mother warned you about, but the internet made easier to access. Today's episode, we are getting into lot lizards. That's right, we're going to dive into the underground world of truck stop sex work. And before you laugh or raise an eyebrow or shrug it off like some relic from a trucker-themed episode of Cops, hear me out. This is not just folklore from the diesel-soaked highways of the past. This is still happening. It's evolved, but it's still happening. It might look very different from what you imagine, if you know anything about this. Because while the name lot lizard might sound like it belongs to an urban dictionary from, 2004, the truth is this entire underground scene has upgraded, but not really in a cute way. We're talking apps, escorts for hire platforms, encrypted meetups, private networks truckers use to share numbers. The game has gone digital, guys, but the stakes? They're just as real, and in some ways even more dangerous. And here's what gets me. Most people under 30 don't even know this exists. They wouldn't even consider it to be true. But it does, and it is. This started a long time back, and it never stopped. It just slipped into the shadows, kind of, like a lot of things that, things that people don't want you looking at too closely. Right? So today, in this episode, we're going to do what we do best here on Alexis Knight Investigates and shine a light into the dark corners of the real world. Because understanding how the game works now tells us way more than just what's going on at truck stops. It tells us who's profiting, who's suffering, and how technology isn't always making things better. Let's go back to where it all started. Okay, picture this. It's 1987. You're on the road somewhere off I-40. It's midnight. You pull into a rest stop, neon buzz, vending machines humming, the scent of stale coffee and motor oil in the air. You know it. You love it. You kill the engine. You lean back in the driver's seat, and within minutes, there's a knock on your door. You look out the window, and there she is, maybe dressed in a miniskirt, maybe sweatpants. Either way, it just doesn't matter. She is working. She is a lot lizard. That's what they were called. Crude? Sure. But trucker lingo is always full of code, and lot lizard became the actual name for women and sometimes men. Mostly women, though, who walked the truck stops offering sex for money. Sometimes it was consensual. Sometimes, tragically, it was not. This wasn't high-end escorting, okay, or call girl glitz. This was raw, direct, and immediate, transactional at its most basic level. A woman would walk the lot. She would knock on doors, or wait in the shadows by the shower building, or maybe the diner. Truckers who were lonely, bored, or just looking for a quick release would negotiate right there on the spot, often in cash, but always in code. And the CB radio, remember seeing those in movies? Well, that was the hotline before hotlines. You'd hear things like, "Got a lot lizard at the Loves," or "looking for company in slot 34. The entire underground network operated over open airwaves. No encryption, no burner phones, just voices over static. Now let's be real, this was not glamorous. For many of these women, it wasn't empowering either. It was survival, addiction, poverty, trauma. They were often the backdrop. And yes, there were also women who chose it freely, on their own terms, doing what they thought they had to get by. But it was very dangerous. Truck stops are not safe havens. They can be dark, transient, full of people who are not from the area. Violence was and still is a major risk. And if you think law enforcement wasn't watching, well, think again. Many truckers knew the risk. Some avoided it altogether, just did not get involved, while others became regulars. In the old school game, the rules were simple. Walk the lot, knock on doors, make the deal. But as society evolved, so did the hustle. Technology was about to rewrite this playbook and change everything. Let's fast forward. The year is now, okay? You're still on I-40, but this time, you're not waiting for a knock on the cab. Instead, your phone buzzes. It's a notification from an app you don't talk about. The photo's a little bit blurry, but the message is clear. The lot lizard isn't walking the parking lot anymore. She's in the cloud. And that's the thing. This world didn't die. It evolved. It upgraded, if you will. And it got a hell of a lot harder to see unless you knew where to look. Okay, they aren't wandering parking lots anymore. I mean, back in the day, it was CB radios. If you don't know what that is, it was these radios you could pick up, hold it to your mouth, and you could talk to someone on a special channel. And so truckers would talk on these radio channels to each other. It was a great way to stay in contact with each other, find out good places to go, how the roads were doing. They had a network to help each other. All right. It also helped them whisper all their little hallway deals at the travel plaza. Okay. Now, today, people are using burner phones and encrypted texts, private ads with just enough innuendo to fly under the radar. Craigslist shut down its personals section years ago. But don't think that it killed the business. You think it would do that? No, it just fractured it. Now there are a dozen of smaller sites, all these little sites. Skip the Games, Bedpage, Tryst, Switter. If you've ever heard of these, I'd be surprised, because that would be the point, to hide them. They don't want you to know about these. If you're in the system, then you get to know. But if you're not, they don't want any red flags or anything popping up drawing attention to it. Truckers, okay, they don't need to cruise the lot anymore, and they don't need lot lizards to be knocking on doors. They just check the listings. They run their filters by city, by truck stop, even by time of day sometimes. Available near I-70. Discreet and trucker-friendly. In-call, out-call options. All right, I mean, you name it, it's in there. Some even coordinate through private Telegram channels or password-protected message boards. You know, places where truckers trade reviews and numbers like frickin' baseball cards. They rate their experiences, they warn about scams, and they share who's legit and who isn't. I mean, this is a full-on underground business. It's kind of like Yelp, but for illegal hookups. And if that doesn't feel surreal to you, think about this. A lot of these women are no longer bound to the lot at all, okay? Some are doing it virtually, like a Truckers OnlyFans. Cam work, voice work, texting fantasies for a fee. But for those still working in person, they've become more selective, that's for sure. They're more mobile, and they're definitely more protected. Except when they're not, because there's always that. Because here's the truth. Technology made the work more discreet, more accessible, but that doesn't always make things safer. I mean, traffickers, they learned this game too. And now they use the same apps to move women from city to city, keeping them just under the radar. The lot lizard today might be using a prepaid cell phone and booking appointments online, but she might also be under someone else's control, someone who watches every message she sends. And then don't forget about law enforcement. Police departments across the country have adapted. They run sting operations, posing as buyers, or worse, posing as the women themselves, waiting to catch truckers who are looking for a quick fix. One wrong swipe, and you're not getting company, okay? You're getting handcuffs. But even with the risk, I have to tell you, this business is booming. Because, let's be honest, truckers are isolated. They work long hauls. They sleep in cabs. They shower in gas stations. I mean, the loneliness and hardship is real. And for a lot of them, the phone has become their companion. We can see how this could happen. So why not take it one step further? No commitments. No one to disappoint. Get the job done. Swipe, message, meet up, all under the illusion of privacy. But now don't confuse accessibility with safety. Again, I bring this up. Just because the lights are brighter in the truck stop, it doesn't mean the danger has just disappeared. No, it just changed. And this is the twist in this story that most people miss. When it comes to sex work, especially the kind orbiting around truck stops, it's not about being seen anymore. It has flipped, guys. Now it's about being invisible, staying off the radar. And the better the tech gets, the more invisible all of this becomes. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. In fact, it's closer than ever. Next, we're going to talk about the part no one wants to look at, the consequences behind the curtain. Because it's not all hustle and autonomy. For some people, the story ends in pain, and for others, it ends in a jail cell. You know it does. And I mean, okay, we've covered how this all got started, the history of the lot lizard. We've looked at how the game has evolved. But now we need to talk about the side of this story that's not gritty or fascinating or edgy. It's the side that's just dark. Because as easy as it is to talk about lot lizards, like it's a trucker myth or maybe some quirky subculture that we just accept, it's just out there. But the truth is, many of these encounters, all right, behind them, there is a much heavier story. And if we don't talk about it, we miss the whole point. Let's start with the obvious one, the human trafficking. Of course, that made its way into this. Not every woman or man involved in this world, the lot lizard world, is there by choice. That's not speculation. That is a fact backed by every agency from the FBI to nonprofit organizations working on the ground. Many of these young women are runaways. Many are coerced. Some are manipulated by people that they trust. Others are threatened by perfect strangers. They're moved from city to city, truck stop to truck stop, so that they can't know anyone. They can't build any relationships. They can't find help. They can't escape. They are told what to say, who to meet, when to smile, and if they step out of line, let me tell you, the consequences are brutal. There are reports, and I bring you facts. These are real recent reports of women being branded like cattle. They are then monitored by GPS or locked in trailers between stops, things like this. And because so much of this happens in transient spaces, places where people come and go quickly, all right, the average person does not want to hang around a gas station or truck stop. You know, they get what they get. They want to go, all right? And with everyone coming and going like that, activity like this can be very hard to detect, hard to track, and very easy to miss. And then, of course, there's the legal danger. Some of these women, especially those who have been arrested, are not seen as victims. They are treated like criminals. They're booked, charged, and tossed into a system that doesn't ask questions, it just processes. Even when they are victims of trafficking, many never get the support they need, because if you're 19 and you're now addicted because they did that to you, and you're caught in a sting at a truck stop, it's 3 a.m. Who is going to believe you when you say, someone else is controlling what I do? That's the part that really stings, isn't it? You can't tell who's in it for themselves, who's forced to be there, what's going on. I mean, we live in a society where the term sex worker is starting to get more recognition, more nuance. But we're not relating it to truck stops. We're not talking about this. Not on the edge of highways. Out there, like it's still treated like a crime, not the crisis that it is. And on the other side of the equation, we have all the truckers. Are they villains? Not all of them. Some are exploited. Some are addicted now themselves. They dipped into the game. Some are dealing with trauma they never addressed. Makes for a lethal mix. And others are just lonely people, isolated, now caught in a routine that numbs them out. That is their reward. But then there are the predators. The ones that know exactly what they're doing. The ones who use the anonymity of the road to find exactly what they want. And then they disappear before anyone even notices them. Some truckers have been caught running operations, trafficking others, trading women between rigs like they're property. I'm telling you, this is a fact. This is not myth. This is all documented, and it's horrifying. And for those who are not part of the exploitation but still engage in this world, they are still part of the ecosystem because they're still fueling it, whether they realize it or not. It's very messy. There's no clean line between victim and criminal here, and that's what makes this world so hard to regulate and so hard to fix, because it's all built in silence and on silence, on invisibility, on keeping things moving just fast enough that no one stops to ask, what is really going on here? And that's what we're doing in this episode, all right? We're stopping, we're asking, because once you pull that curtain back on the digital hustle, the ratings, the apps, the code words, I mean, all of it, it's hard to ignore what is actually happening underneath all of this. This isn't a sex story. It's not a punchline. It's not a headline about a sting operation in some small town's truck stop. This is a reality for thousands of people right this very minute. And we owe it to them not to sensationalize it, but to see it, recognize it as something that is happening in your town. So now that you've seen the serious side, let's ask the next question. All right, the obvious question. Why is this still happening? How can this be allowed? Why isn't anyone talking about this anymore? They used to. There was actually a time when lot lizard was a punchline. I mean, you'd hear it on the radio, truck stop jokes, and in stand-up routines. TV shows would toss it in as a dirty little side character, someone popping out of a rig in a leopard print outfit and some smeared eyeliner. I mean, they played this for laughs, maybe a little shock value. But it was always on the fringe, but at the same time, people did talk about it at all. You'd hear truckers swap stories like they were legends. This one girl at the Flying J in Albuquerque, yada, yada. And the stories always sounded, a little too polished, a little too worn from being passed around. There were even some news segments, if you can believe it, cops episodes, local reporters doing exposés with headlines like, sex for sale on the interstate. I mean, it wasn't respectful coverage, let's be honest, but it was coverage, bringing attention to what was going on. And then all of a sudden, something shifted. I'm not talking overnight, but slowly it was almost invisible. That was the thing. It got a lot quieter. Lot lizards disappeared from jokes. Trucks stopped sex work. It stopped being a gritty punchline. It became a legal liability, an image problem, something companies did not want to be associated with at the end of the day. And as apps and websites and encryption took over, the entire industry just slipped right out of sight. You didn't see them in the lot anymore. You didn't hear about them on the radio. I mean, this is why people don't even know about them today. There was no more knocking on cab doors, and nobody talked about it anymore because now it wasn't happening in public. It was happening in your phone. The term lot lizard became outdated even though the work didn't go anywhere. In fact, it actually expanded and got smarter. A little safer in some ways and more dangerous in others. And that's where we are now today. In a world where something very real, very active, and very human is happening every single day, and almost no one's talking about it. You don't hear about it in the media. Not truckers who know the code. You're not hearing about it from women who got caught in it. And you're definitely not hearing any companies talk about it. They don't want the bad PR. So why does it still matter? It matters because when something goes this underground, like this did, the people on the inside that are being used now at this point, they lose their voice. When the only people talking are the ones who are making money off of it, trafficking these women, or the ones who are sweeping it under the rug because they still want to use the service, we stop seeing the humans behind the transaction, don't we? You don't know about them. Most of you out there have no idea what I'm even talking about. But this is a real thing. Truck stop hookers. Maybe that word grabs your attention. Order them up. Make your appointment. Take your shower. Go to bed. And everyone makes money. Not the women that you're with or the men. Those running the show. Okay, and when things get this invisible and we don't even see the people that are behind these transactions, that's when the worst things happen. That's when women get hurt and no one knows their name. That's when a 19-year-old gets arrested, labeled a criminal, and no one ever asks who brought her there. That's when a man books a meeting with someone he thinks is 22 and consensual. He has no idea he just paid a trafficker. It still matters because this is still real, guys. Lot lizards didn't disappear, they rebranded. Someone rebranded them because they could make money off of them. They moved platforms. They adapted because that's what people do when survival's on the line. The independents out there, they want to dip into the system. They need to be online. That's how they'll be in this business. That's how they can stay making money in this way. And if we act like this whole world, this whole lot lizard, truck stop, prostitution, hookups, paid sex, trafficking, all of this, if we just think it all went away or doesn't exist, we are lying. You don't have to like the phrase of anything I said. You don't have to glamorize the story, not that you really can, but you do need to understand the system because it's a reflection of the world we live in today. A world where the edge of the highway, that's still someone's whole world. And where silence is never harmless. But we know, silence is deadly. Let's shift gears now. I mean, we've talked about the story, the history, the evolution. But here's where we ground it in with all the facts, okay? Because whether people want to admit it or not, the numbers don't lie. And what they reveal is this. This world, it's bigger and riskier and more active than most people even realize. Let's start with a number you can hold on to. The United States has between 800,000 and about 1.2 million long-haul truck drivers on the road. This is a staggering number of people moving across the country every single day. often doing it alone, often for weeks at a time, and loneliness. That's not just a feeling, it's a vulnerability, a psychological entry point. And the entire sex for sale economy knows it. Now, how many of those truckers are actively engaging in sex work? Right? Because not all of them are, surely. How many are either paying for services or participating in the network that fuels it? Well, guess what? We don't actually know. There's not an exact number, which is also part of the problem. This is a shadow market. It's transactional, hush-hush, and designed to disappear before daylight. But studies on high-risk sexual behavior among long-haul truck workers consistently shows patterns. From condomless sex to anonymous encounters to paying for sex while on the road. It's not just happening. It's recurring. It's a part of the whole trucking process. It's systemic. And in many cases, it's accepted within the subculture. I mean, how else are you supposed to have a moment for yourself? Now, let's talk about the women involved. How many of the women, I'm only talking about the women here just for this example, the lot lizards, how many are doing this by choice and how many are not? Now, according to anti-trafficking organizations, a significant portion of people working in roadside sex trades are not doing this because they felt like doing it. And when you narrow the focus to minors, the numbers get even darker. In the United States, it is estimated that 1 out of every 6 runaways reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was likely a victim of sex trafficking. Many of them end up at truck stops. Why? Because truck stops are transient, lawless in a way. People come and go, and predators know it. The line between sex work and sex trafficking, it's not always clear to outsiders, but for the people inside it, it's often the difference between survival and slavery, between a bad choice and no choice at all. And let's not forget about the fatal side of the story. Sex workers, particularly those working outdoors or in transient zones like truck stops, they face a homicide rate that is 17 times higher than women in other professions. 17 times. Think about that. And yet society still just writes it off. Don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. Some still joke about it. Oh, the lot lizard. It's like a meme instead of the tragedy it is. Now, let's get personal. How many people lie about this? Oh, boy. We don't have hard data because, of course, we don't. People lie. But anecdotal evidence, exit interviews, and behavioral patterns, they do show us a few things. They show us that most people involved in all of this, they really don't want to talk about it. They absolutely do it. The men do not tell their wives. That is something you just don't do. Women, they will not tell their families either. Survivors often carry the story for years before speaking about it out loud. If you were a sex worker, half dead between 14 and 17, that might be something you can't even physically bring up again during the rest of your lifetime if you get out of it. It's a very difficult business, and once you're in it, it never stops for you. Now, why is it that so many people want in, but they don't want to talk about it? Right? Why don't these women want to tell their stories? Well, that's because the stigma in society is a lot louder than the facts. And here's the last statistic that you should remember. According to Polaris, one of the leading organizations tracking human trafficking in the United States, the national hotline received over 50,000 signals in just 1 year. calls, texts, web forms, many connected to truck stops. So ask yourself, if that's how many people reported this, how many do you think didn't? Just use percentages, guys. Figure it out. I tell you stories like this not to shock you, not to shame anyone, but to remind everyone that these things still exist, even when we stop talking about them. And when it comes to this particular world, silence, it is not just dangerous. Again, silence is deadly. And there you have it. So what did we learn? Well, lot lizards, hey, that's a real thing. It's not just a myth. They're not a relic of the past. They're not something that just maybe was an idea or something for stories. It's a very real thing. They did not vanish when CB radios went silent or when Craigslist shut down its own personals section. They just adapted. They went online like everything, and they kept moving just like the trucks they circle. And behind every blurry, sexy photo, behind every encrypted message, every hush-hush parking lot meetup, there is a person. Someone with a story, someone surviving, or someone stuck. This isn't just about truckers or sex workers or what goes on behind the curtain at the Flying J. It's about what happens when a whole world is allowed to exist illegally, harmfully, in silence. When the rest of us stop looking and stop asking and stop caring, it's dangerous. You don't have to be on the road to be part of this story. I tell you guys this almost every time. It is us. It's the people with the power. We need to always keep looking and asking those questions. Why is this allowed today when it clearly is? It could be stopped somehow at some point. Why is it still in existence? If you're listening, then you're part of the few who are taking a moment to look closer. And guess what? That matters a lot. Because here on Alexis Knight Investigates, I'm not just telling stories. This exposes the system. This can challenge the silence and remind you that what's hidden isn't always gone. It's just waiting for someone to pull back the curtain. So the next time you pass a glowing truck stop sign at midnight, ask yourself what stories might be parked there. Who is still trapped inside them? I am Alexis Knight, and this was your deep dive into roadside reality. Stay sharp out there, guys. Ask the difficult questions and always demand the truth. And whatever you do, keep your windows rolled up. Until next time.